Hello guys, and welcome back to Joe's Ventures, and today we're doing part 57 of our Jurassic World Evolution 2 mod spotlights, where we take a look at some of the wonderful mods people have been making and compare them to their real-life fossil counterparts. So, today, I know I've just released the big Ceratopsian pack, but I feel like being very generous to you guys, since there was an update to it, as well as a few really cool mods that I wanted to talk to right before the update, the prehistoric marine species updates come out, so I thought I'd be really nice and do that. Let me just quickly close the park, of course, because we don't want people running around. Anyway, really excited for that, really keen. So there's a few cool new mods, including one of the largest animals of all time, which, or believed to be, or was one of the largest animals of all time, we'll say. I'll explain more when we get into it, but we're going to be starting off today with a kind of looking back at Hockal's Ceratopsian cosmetic pack. We'll be having a look at the Torosaurus, which he's updated. So I'm going to explain what he's updated and what he's changed. So yeah, let's have a wonderful look at this guy. So you can see, definitely some nice changes to the face around here. Let's see if we can get a good look. We'll have a look at you. You probably look the nicest. But yeah, we can see some changes here. Some slight changes to the frill there, add a little bit more keratin. But the biggest changes here are the original one. If you watch the original video, go back to part 36, you'll see that they had a very small brow, not brow horn, nasal horn, very similar to like Triceratops. But what actually is one of the more defining features is that Torosaurus actually has a really huge nasal horn. So you can see it's almost like a pyramid or a big triangle, as you can see going on there. Then you also have kind of that rounded face there as well. So a little bit less like Horridus and Porosus, a little bit like rounder, more softer features, and also this huge, big nasal horn that just sticks out like a pyramid almost, and slightly longer horns. Added more keratin there, so some slight updates. Also, I believe there's been some updates to the jugals as well to make that a little bigger there. But you can see the wonderful Torosaurus. The main way you can tell Torosaurus apart from these guys is also that big nasal horn. And they have the largest skull of any land animal. And they have this really large frill that's both really tall and has large holes in it. The fenestrae, which would have been covered by skin in life, unlike the Sinosaurus and Sinoceratops and Jurassic World, I don't know. But that would have been covered in skin and probably allowed for displays and things like that. So it really is an interesting animal in that regard. Really cool. And then you can see that big round body. Anatomy is very typical of Ceratopsians. Big round body, long tail, and you can see the three-fingered toes. Well, not the three-fingered toes, the three nailed toes, and then two non-ones, and you can see the big four at the back there. So pretty spot on for anatomy in terms of Ceratopsian. As we know, Hockals are really good with that. And it's really cool that they've updated this one to make it more accurately represent Torosaurus, because it's an underrated animal. Not a lot of people have been making remakes of this animal, so really cool that someone's decided to go back and do the dedication and give it the love that it so deserves, because all the dinosaurs need their accurate love, and it's a really awesome mod. So yeah, really cool. And just a little PSA, you will need the expanded colors core for the Ceratopsian pack, because a lot of the Ceratopsians will use those colors. So, and if you don't, some will probably crash. So just a little bit of a warning. So next up, we have got Master Doot. Where's my thing? There it is. Master Doot's the next one. Hock-Al1215 did the Torosaurus as part of the Ceratopsian cosmetic pack. The Megalosaurus next is done by Master Doot, who's kind of remade and done a nice paleo-accurate cosmetic for the Megalosaurus. So let's have a wonderful look at this guy. So really cool animal. We'll have a look. We'll have a look at you since you're the nicest one. Yeah, Master Dude always brings out some awesome mods, but we can see here this is Megalosaurus, which is a type of megalosaur. These were a group of kind of large carnivores that included Torosaurus and were the ancestors of things like Spinosaurus. And lived during kind of the middle to late Jurassic, and Megalosaurus itself is very, very important in the history of dinosaurs because it was the first dinosaur ever found. And this has changed so much. It was originally interpreted as like a giant iguana, but now it's, as you can see, as it changes and move on, like iguanodon. Uh, we pretty much now have now all this history with all the other evidence from other large theropods and things like that. And now we have Megalosaurus. So Megalosaurus is kind of up there with like Iguanodon, and Amphicoelias is the first dinosaurs. I believe Iguanodon's technically first, got that wrong, but Megalosaurus was very close to that. So, we could say the first theropod really found. But yeah, really, really cool. So it was a medium-sized theropod, probably about 8 to 9 meters long, not quite as big as everyone's big T-Rex and even Torosaurus. Was a little bit bigger, like 10, 11 meters in some cases. But these guys are really, really cool. We can see that big boxy head. They almost look like T-Rex before T-Rex, big boxy head, while animals like Allosaurus had quite like lean skulls and things like that. But still quite big and bulky, and they have that quite long neck. Looks really, really interesting. Big three-clawed hands. You can see there the top one's the biggest one. You can see the big claw, and then you can see the longer fingers. The three claws. That's the easiest way to tell them apart from a lot of other animals is because like Abelisaurs and Ceratosaurs have 4 fingers, T-Rexes and Tyrannosaurs have 2, things like that. Some even have 5, I believe, but yeah, really, really cool. Nice, like big, round, boxy body. You can see the ischemia pubis come out there, and the gastralia as well. And that quite long tail. As I mentioned, keep mentioning Jurassic World kind of always makes their dinosaurs' tails a bit too short. And then you can see these big toes there. I have to say, though, I'm not sure about the pattern, though. I don't think that's very realistic, but I like the anatomy. It's just the pattern I think is a little weird, but I still think it's okay. I like that there. Maybe if it was just a little bit toned down, like it'd be all right. But still cool. Definitely a big fan. Maybe you can turn it off. I think we'll see. But yeah, really, really cool. Especially like this one. I like the colors going down his tail. That looks really nice. Nice colors, nice variation. This one's probably the best. I tend to always like the grays and browns with dinosaurs. That just seems to be like most animals. I know everyone says, oh, there are brightly colored birds. For every brightly colored bird or brightly colored lizard, there's probably like 10 or 15 brown or black lizards. So I think black and browns and more natural colors like that tend to always be the best. But yeah, really, really cool. Another really nice one from Master Doot. So we'll let them run off and do their thing. Oh, we don't want them slow-mo. So next up, we're going to the lagoons. I know lagoons are getting a lot of love recently, which we always love, but we've got a really cool modern new one on the scene. It's called MLJU, I believe that's their name. They have done some mods recently that I haven't covered. They've basically planted all sorts of like modern marine animals like sunfish, humpback and sperm whales, animals like that onto rigs from this game, like the Pleurodon and Tylosaurus and things like that, which is really cool, but they've been replacements. So I've kind of been waiting for them to kind of get that new species coding ready so I could cover them all as new species because I think they deserve it because they're such cool animals. But this is his first one. We have got the bull shark. So you can see this guy fits on the ichthyosaur. See if you can find. We'll have a look at you because you are out in the sunlight. But this is the course based on the man-eater model. So let's have a look at you. So this is, as I mentioned, the bull shark, also known as Zambezi shark or the Lake Nicaragua shark. These guys are a species of raccoon shark that can be found pretty much across tropical and warm, shallow, and freshwater systems across the world. They are both found in salt and freshwater, which is really cool. And they are quite aggressive in nature and pretty much responsible for most shark attacks, which is quite a little bit sad. But these guys are quite large and stout, and with females typically being larger than the males, like most sharks. A bull shark can get up to about 81 centimeters or about 2 feet at birth, and adult female sharks get between 2.4 meters or 8 feet long and weigh about 130 kilograms, while the male sharks are slightly smaller on average, being about 7 feet or 2.25 meters and about 95 kilograms. And typically a maximum length of about 11 feet or 3.5 meters has been reported, and there actually has been a female that has been seen exists of a female that was about 4 meters long, but we don't know that. And the theory, and there was also a 10 foot or about 3.25 meter pregnant shark that was about 450 kilograms or 990 pounds. So quite a big animal. But beware, she was pregnant, so she was carrying, and that would add a lot of weight to her. And you can see, unlike a lot of other requiem sharks that are quite long and slender, and because they're used to more open water, these guys are quite stout and heavier than sharks of like the same length, and they're grey on top, white on bottom, and they also have their second dorsal fin almost, which is smaller than the first, and the caudal fin is longer than that of larger sharks and has quite a small snout in comparison. So very distinctive looking shark, but still really, really cool. Really strong bite force though. They can have a bite force of up to nearly 6,000 newtons and have the highest weight for weight, the highest bite, like pound per pound of any cartilaginous fish, which is really, really cool. In terms of their distribution and habitat, these guys can be found worldwide in coastal areas of warm waters, and occasionally can be found on salt and freshwater streams if they are deep enough. They've actually been found in places such as the Atlantic, and they're also found in the Massachusetts and from southern Brazil, and Morocco to Angola in Africa, which is quite cool. Populations actually have been found in several major rivers. So like there's more than 500 bull sharks living within the Brisbane River, and there have been some flooding, swimming through flooded streets and things like that, which is quite a terrifying sight. And on the other coasts as well, they've been found in the Pacific Ocean. They can be found from Ecuador to Baja California. And they're quite strong swimmers, as they can be found in the Amazon as well, and they can be found up the Amazon River to Incas in Peru and also northern Bolivia. They can be found on Lake Nicaragua and the Ganges and big rivers across the world because they are quite tolerant of that, and that's because of their freshwater tolerance. They're one of the best known species of elasmobranch, and they've been reported in brackish and fresh waters. And other species that enter rivers include stingrays, sawfish, skates, and dogfish and things like that. And the term is called diadromus, which means they can swim between fresh and salt water with ease. And they're actually quite able to adapt to lots of salinities as well, which is really, really cool. And they're one of the few cartilaginous fish to be reported in freshwater systems. And many fish that are adapted to that are things like salmon or tilapia, which are bony fish. Most cartilaginous fish, others I mentioned, like the sawfish and skates and things like that, they tend to just be one or the other, but these guys are typically found in the ocean, and these guys can come into water zone. And part of the reason is they're able to do this is they're able to regulate kind of themselves. They can live for fresh water for their entire life, but they mostly come out to the ocean to breed. So it just depends on the individual, really. So how they do this is because they are typically, their blood is normally at least as salty as seawater because of urea and things like that. But bull sharks living in freshwater have less urea in their blood because they're able to solute, it's osmosis, they're able to come out. So the bull shark in freshwater is still much higher than the environment, so they're able to kind of control their urea and urine to help better. Basically, they pee a lot just to try and maintain that salinity in their body, because like the freshwater will just take all the salinity out of their body and they'll dry up pretty much. But in terms of their diet, bull sharks eat mainly bony fish and small sharks, including other bull sharks and stingrays. They'll also eat turtles, birds, dolphins, terrestrial mammals, echinoderms and crustaceans, while they hunt in murky waters and things like that. And they tend to use the bump and bite technique, so they bump into their prey, they will bite and tackle it until their prey is unable to flee. Also quite solitary hunters, so they may actually hunt in pairs sometimes. Or they pair up with another bull shark to make it easier to hunt, to trick prey and things like that. They're also quite opportunistic as well, like most sharks. So they're on that seafood diet. If they see food, they eat it. They'll eat in short bursts where food is scarce, and they'll digest for a much longer period of time to avoid starvation. As part of their survival mechanism, they'll also regurgitate food to try and escape from a predator, which is quite interesting. And if the predator moves to eat that regurgitated food, they'll kind of swim off and escape. Basically, throw it up, give them some food, and then run away. But in terms of reproduction, typically bull sharks mate during late summer and early autumn, often in estuaries and bays, and they gestate for about 12 months, and then the bull shark may give birth to 1 to 13 live young. As I mentioned, they're born viviparous, so they're born living in free swimming in water, so they come out swimming. The young are typically about 70 centimeters at birth. And the bull shark does not rear their young, but they will give birth to them into flat protected areas and then swim off, including like lagoons, river mouths, and low salinity environments are common habitats for nurseries. And the male bull sharks will begin reproducing about 15 years of age, while the female cannot reproduce until she is 18. The size of a fully matured female produce viable eggs as about 75 to 235 centimeters, and the courting routine between bull sharks has not been observed in detail, which is kind of sad. But in terms of interaction with humans, because they live in often shallow waters where most people are, because most people don't like hanging out in deep water, that's why they're also quite aggressive, and they are one of the three sharks that are quite most likely to bite humans, along with great whites and tiger sharks. There's been several bull shark reports that were inspiration for the movie Jaws, and they've attacked swimmers in India, and also Sydney, and things like that. Though a lot of the Ganges bites are actually the Ganges shark, which is a critically endangered species of river shark. But if you're going to get bit by a shark, the three most likely species is going to be the bull shark, the tiger shark, and the great white shark. But this is the most likely, pretty much. But yeah, in terms of the ecology, they're the biggest. Humans are the biggest threat to these sharks, but larger sharks like great whites and tiger sharks may attack them. Also, they may get attacked by saltwater crocodiles, especially like around Australia. Also, Nile crocodiles have been known to eat them. And another really cool thing about these guys is they have been lots of behavioral studies, and shows they can distinguish between colors of mesh netting that they're underwater, so they can avoid mesh with bright colors. And it's been a way to help protect people from sharks. And also, they've been known to basically conserve a lot of energy. So they conserve energy by decreasing the energy needed to osmoregulate in their ecosystem. They also will move on tidal flows, things like that, use all sorts of ways to kind of conserve energy, because that's kind of how sharks roll. They just try to conserve as much energy as possible. But yeah, in terms of their conservation, they are sadly listed as vulnerable, because their population is currently decreasing. So despite their status, the species isn't named to protect species. Although they're numerous, they often get caught in nets, they get overfished for their oil, skin, and meat, also shark fin soup. And they're also prosecuted. There are shark culling basically operations going to reduce the number of sharks so people don't get attacked, which is understandable, but of course that really hurts the sharks because they take so long to grow up. As I mentioned, they don't reach sexual maturity until they're like 15 or 18, and that really hurts their populations. But there have been efforts to try and basically create ways that people can swim safely in the ocean and repel sharks without killing them. So things like the shark safe barrier, using magnetic and visual stimuli to kind of deter the sharks by putting out a magnetic field to deter them. And it's not perfect, but there's a lot of research into that and trying to basically allow humans and sharks to coexist, which is the best ending, because the sharks are very important, because not only because of their intrinsic value, because they perform very important functions for the ecosystem, they regulate populations of many different animals, and also they just deserve to live because they're living animals. And obviously people want to use, like, especially shallow beaches and rivers safely, so definitely really, really cool research in that regard. And even though a lot of the shark attacks, you're more likely to be bitten by a New Yorker than a shark. But I think it's really cool. There's a lot of effort trying to protect sharks just as much, because they get a bad rap. But yeah, really, really cool animal. Really do love a bull shark. That was by MLJU. Did a really wonderful job. I really, really hope that he manages, or they manage to release some of the other animals that they've done, like the humpback whale, blue whale. I'd love to see them in a lagoon like this, rather than like in Jurassic World Evolution, or Planet Zoo, where they kind of just swim around and come on land. I'd love to see them swimming around in the lagoon, because this is like purpose made for whales and stuff. So I think that'd be really, really cool. And I'd love to cover them on the channel, of course. So next up, we've got a couple Master Doot mods coming up again. So next up, we've got the largest Abelisaur. We've got Pycnonemosaurus, I believe you say that. So really, really cool guy here. Let's have a look at you. So which one's got the nicest colors? Let's have it. I think you have the nicest colors. Looks, we have Pycnonemosaurus, I believe you say that, which name means dense forest lizard. So this guy is a genus of carnivorous theropod and is a member of the Abelisaurs, so it's related to Carnotaurus, Megalosaurus, things like that. It was discovered in the type species Pycnonemosaurus devasi was discovered by Kenner and Karpus in 2002, with the only known specimen coming from the Fresno Rocaldo locality found in Palo Creek, which is in the Baru group in Brazil. So it was found in Brazil. And these rocks date to about the late Cretaceous, about 70 million years ago. So right at the beginning of the Maastrichtian, which is really, really cool. And they actually kind of visited on the farm and collected these bones and things like that. And the bones of this guy was found with this large Megalosaur theropod, but also found with lots of Titanosaurs. So its name was named for the Greek word orpaites, which means dense, nemos, which means pastoral woodlands, and sauros, which means reptile lizard. So it's the dense forest lizard. And the naming was an allusion to the Mato Grosso state where the remains were found because of the dense jungles and things like that around Brazil. And the species name was given to the late Dr. Leo Bossa Nevas, who passed away in 2000, who encouraged the pursuit of paleontology studies in Alexander Kenner. So kind of a way to tribute another scientist, which is really cool. And thus far, it is quite fragmentary, as most like biggest of each group kind of are. It's very, very fragmentary. But they actually do have quite a lot. So the type specimen is found in Rio de Janeiro in the Earth Sciences Museum. It has 5 incomplete teeth, parts of the caudal vertebrae, distal pubis, tibia, and right fibula, and kind of these features very much give it away to being like an Abelisaur, but there are some differences, which is quite interesting. And initial size estimates for this animal was about 7 meters or 23 feet and about 1.2 tons or 1.3 tons, which put it around pretty much middle of the road or up there with like Carnotaurus, things like that. But later analyses actually put it quite bigger, so about 8.9 meters or about 29 or 30 feet long almost, long, which makes it the largest formally described member of the Abelisaurs. And even another estimate made it even bigger at about 9 meters long and a weight of 3.6 tons. So definitely one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Abelisaurs known. So kind of taking that role as an ecosystem as a big apex predator, especially around the later Cretaceous where you had a lot of kind of the big Carcharodontosaurs went extinct. So I imagine this could be like the last hurrah, and then you have the Megaraptorans. So it's quite cool. But this guy is in its own kind of group of Favelasauria within the Abelisaurs, and is quite related to Lulucan, which I've covered before, and Megalosaurus and Vivenitar. So there's 2 that were from the pack that I mentioned with Solar, I believe you say that. Solar. You say that? I forgot. I'm going to be honest. Luca it was who made that pack, and those 2 species were featured in there. And this is a close relative of these guys, which is quite cool. And it's also the best known Abelisaur from Brazil, where most theropod material has been quite rare, other than teeth and footprints. And even though there are a few species known from Brazil, it's actually one of the most informative countries concerning the Lower Cretaceous period. And it was a predator and would have preyed a lot on large animals such as like sauropods, crocodilomorphs, and dromaeosaurs, which had lived with it. And its teeth were quite sharp and would be pretty much hold struggling prey, and then the Abelisaur would kind of rip it apart and do like that. Very typical of most other Abelisaurs. But yeah, really, really cool animal. As I mentioned, the biggest. Master Doot loves to do the biggest of every group, and we'll probably show that off definitely very soon. So let you run off and do your thing. So last and certainly not least, we've got the biggest dinosaur of all time. This is an old interpretation. I'm going to go through the history of it, but we've got Amphicoelias fragilis, the longest dinosaur of all time. It looks so big. Let's see if we can get into it. I think it's just because I put the predators in there. He's a bit spooked, but that's okay. We have an Amphicoelias. So look at this wonderful guy. So we'll go a little bit about this history of this guy. So Amphicoelias was this Amphicoelias fragilis, which is this large sauropod, which is from the Western North America, about the Morrison Formation. So it lived with things like Brachiosaurus and Diplodocus and Allosaurus and animals like that. It was originally named Amphicoelias and has sometimes been estimated the largest dinosaur of all time. And how it was estimated with this is because its original description, it was collected by Ormel William Lucas, who had been hired as a fossil collector for Edward Tinker Cope, which is in 1877, found this large partial vertebrae of a new dinosaur species. And it was in poor condition, but it was a very, very large vertebrae. So it's estimated that the original height may have been as tall as like 9 feet or so, about 2.7 meters. And the preserved parts are about 1.5 meters or 4.9 feet. And there had been talks of potentially like a distal end of a femur and things like that, but pretty much Amphicoelias fragilis was based on the Fragilimus was basically based on that back vertebrae, and it was very fragile and was destroyed. So basically, what happened to that? It was very fragile and it was very thin, and it disappeared. So basically, the giant vertebrae has been ignored because basically we haven't found it. There's even been people that's disappeared. Noted it's very fragile, so almost like it broke apart and things like that. That's what people have been looking at. But different interpretations kind of show that this animal was probably enormous if it was real. So basically, originally it was kind of just thought as being a giant diplodocus, and estimates from that animal pretty much make it about 58 meters, or like 120, I think it's 200 feet long, 130 to 200 feet long, about 40 to 60 meters are the largest estimates if you base it off the proportions of something like Diplodocus, and weighed up to 150 tons. So would have made it one of the biggest dinosaurs, the biggest dinosaur of all time in terms of weight and length, pretty much just under the blue whale in terms of its size. And those based on the estimates basically scaling up from a Diplodocus. But over history, as we know, history has interpretations. So people, because it's so big and fascinating, people have gone back and looked and reinterpreted things. But however, recently, I think about 2016 or so, it was redescribed as a Rebeccasaur instead of Diplodocus. So instead of being related to things like Diplodocus, Barosaurus, Supersaurus, it turns out that Amphicoelias was related to things like Rebeccasaurus, like Nigersaurus, Dicraeosaurus, something like that. Soecia, which is an American one. So it was renamed into Maraposaurus. So Maraposaurus, or Marapunosaurus, if you say that, basically is the new name for it because it was described as this new species. And basing it on another Rebeccasaur named Lumasaurus, instead of Diplodocus, it gives you a smaller animal, so about 31 meters or about 102 feet, because Rebeccasaurs are not necessarily as long as the other Diplodocids. They were a lot more kind of leaner and shorter necks and tails and things like that, but still a 30-meter long animal, so that's as long as a blue whale, and up there with a lot of the longer sauropods. And had a little bit of a smaller estimate, so between like 70 to 120 tons, which still makes it a little bit bigger than modern estimates for Argentinosaurus, but still up there with some of the biggest animals. 120 tons, so huge. And 35 to 40 meters is kind of where it's been put. The longest is 45 meters, but that puts it within the range of other animals such as Bucanthosaurus, which has actually had a recent paper estimating its size of like 190 tons, but I'm going to say that's pretty hand-wavy. And the extra large, and my favorite kind of thing, is the Megabarosaurus. So there's a Barosaurus vertebrae that was found that was estimated to be about 45, potentially even 50 meters long. Basically replacing Amphicoelias fragilis as kind of that really long, big animal. And we actually have some good evidence. We have the vertebrae and things like that of its size. And smallest estimates put it about like 45 meters. Some even put it at 50 meters, like 38 plus meters. So it's all really big animals, which is really, really cool. So this recent interpretation, as I mentioned, it was originally described by Cope and Osborne as kind of Diplodocids, so related to Diplodocus, Supersaurus, Barosaurus, things like that. But now, with its new name, which is a Mapurisaurus, and Mapurisaurus actually means Mapuri, which means like huge reptile. It literally just means huge reptile, while Fragilimus just means very fragile. So it's a very fragile, huge reptile for the new interpretation. The older name, Amphicoelias, I'm not actually sure what that means, Amphicoelias. Let me check. Amphicoelias, which means... Distal and the femur. No, I can't find it on here. I just looking at Wiki to make sure I'm right. But yeah, really, really cool. So using that Rebecca-Sword interpretation, it's been shrunk a bit, but still really huge, up there with some of the largest dinosaurs, bigger than Argentinosaurus. So yeah, really, really cool. But as I mentioned, it's been lost for pretty much 150 years, so anything, I don't even know why they even bothered redescribing it, to be honest, as a Rebecca-Sword, because we only have basically a picture of the specimen, we don't have the actual specimen, so it's basically lost. It's pretty much the same as describing Bigfoot off like a drawing someone made 200 years ago. So I personally wouldn't have done that, but I guess they wanted to do that. And plus, it's a cool name. Marapunisaurus is a cool name. I think it does fit the animal. And lots of people have been thinking, like, it's such a huge animal. How would it have lived? What's its ecology? But there's been lots of research suggesting that sauropods were like hindgut fermenters, so they basically, it's similar to elephants and rabbits and big animals like that. They would just have huge intestines and a large cecum to basically hold lots and lots of plants to digest and ferment in their guts and then absorb the nutrients. And throughout their history, often these guys were found in savannas. The environment of Marapunisaurus was actually typically considered an environment, lots of poor quality food. So basically, they just eat as much as possible to pretty much just fill their stomach constantly and get all that nutrients out. And the Morrison Formation actually most likely would have resembled a modern savanna without the grasses, because grasses weren't really a thing. There were some grasses, I believe, in the like Middle Jurassic, more recent evidence, but mostly ferns and things. But then these guys would have been living off like trees and things like that, and lots of stuff like that. But also, there's been some evidence or some speculation that giant herbivores may have actually feeded at night, since the day would have been quite warm. But I'm not sure how true that is. But yeah, really, really cool and nice to see that. It's also, this is a rig edited one, so this is based off the big, of course, Dreadnoughtus, the Dominion Dreadnoughtus. But you can see it's been rig edited and everything. And there's one really, really cool thing I want to show off. So let's see if we can get this going. So we're back. So obviously just had a bit of a panic and everything. I was thinking of moving in, but whatever. So we're going to see if he's going to do the animation. Well, he's not going to, but we'll see. So Master Doot actually did a whole new animation for him, so which I'm really excited to see. So let's see if we can get him to do it. Just don't want him to miss out. So let's see if he'll do it. So this whole new animation Doot gave him was really, really cool. So I want to be able to show this off. Hopefully he doesn't panic or anything. I think he's going to do it. So let's watch this. Let's see. Oh, he's panicking again. Oh, of course he will. He's not going to do it for us, is he? Oh, no, he's doing it. Okay, so he's going to do it. So this is our new animation that we're seeing. He's going to raise up on his back legs. So you guys are going to enjoy this, especially the largest dinosaur of all time. Let's actually move this a bit. What we're going to do is just get rid of all these plants so we can have a wonderful look at this cool new animation he's got going for it. Get rid of this rock as well. Okay, so let's set the stage. I'm setting the stage. Oh, look at that. Actually, got it wrong, but we'll probably do it again. We'll see. I'll do it again. So let's have a look at this from this angle. So let's play. But look at that. Wow. Actually amazing. So nice to see the animation. See if we do it again. Oh no. So yeah, wonderful look at that. Really, really cool. So obviously you guys can download it for yourselves and see that wonderful new animation. Really nice to see new animations come to the game as well. And what a fitting animal to give that rearing animation to than Amphicoelias fragilis. And I would really also like to see that for the sauropods, because I know a lot of people are really, really keen on seeing the Jurassic Park, Brachiosaurus raise up, which is really, really cool. But yeah, so I think this is a great place to end the video. Amphicoelias, really wonderful job with that, Master Doot, and also MGU and Hawkowl with the remake for the Torosaurus. Really, really awesome. So yeah, I think this is a really great place to end the video. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys like and subscribe. Always remember to hit the little bell icon to get notified below anything. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, hope you guys like and subscribe, and bye-bye.